And hello, YouTube. So this is Thomas Judge back once again with another weekly installment of my ongoing series, Valiant to the Last, in which I read the entire Valiant universe, ideally one deluxe edition at a time, but unfortunately for this particular video and for the last couple of videos, I've been reading some uncollected editions that aren't available as hardcovers. And so with no further ado, today I have read Ninjak. Technically Volume 4, more often known as the 2021 series. It's a 4-issue miniseries and I read it today, so let's talk about it. Well, it's written by Jeff Parker, which isn't a name that's familiar to me. Upon further investigation, I realized that I've actually read a fair bit of his stuff. He wrote the rather unimpressive Aquaman arc in DC's New 52. In fact, he wrote the issue set between Jeff Johns' really good arc and the very final arc that was drawn by Brett Booth, and I can't remember who the writer was. I want to say Robert Van Disse, but my point is he wrote sort of the middle bit, which wasn't especially exciting. So stories like, for example, Maelstrom, things like that. From a Marvel perspective, he wrote Thunderbolts, but he wrote the unexcited Thunderbolt stuff, so the stuff set in Siege and after Siege, which didn't really blow me away. So I can kind of see why I've totally forgotten about that guy's name. He wrote this 4-issue series. The series itself is okay. The storyline is definitely in continuity. It's set straight after the events of Ninja K, or a little while after the events of Ninja K. And so reading it here within our reading kind of makes sense. That's fine. That's fair enough. Um, it's 4 issues. It introduces a couple of new characters, introduces some interesting antagonists. And actually, to be fair, the storyline I think has a lot of potential. Unfortunately, the storyline and the issues themselves have been maligned quite badly. And the reason for that is the art. The art for this was absolutely awful. I know I'm showing you covers right now, but you know what? I'm going to stop and I'm just going to show you some of the internal art. This is what the comic looks like. This is what the internal art looks like. It's all done by a guy called Javier Pulido, I think is his name. And he does the drawing, he does the inking, he does the coloring, and do you know what? It's visible. This looks like a web comic, and when you're reading it, it feels like a web comic. Um, I can knock the art as much as I want. I mean, I'm not an especially great artist. At the same time, I think I could do a better job than this. But another point that this Javier Pulido has got wrong is that the actual framing and composition of the pages is not very good at all. In fact, a lot of it is counterintuitive. When I was reading it, there were bits where I ended up reading bits in the wrong order or following the frames or the storyline across a page in an incorrect and non-chronological way. And the reason for that is that it just was framed badly and composed badly. This got a lot of hate when this artwork, when these images first became known, when people realized that the covers look like this, but the artwork looked like that. It's like people were just like, yeah, this is no good. This is a total bait and switch, and I can see why. The artwork here is just abysmal. And it does kind of make it hard to appreciate the story being any good at all. The story in this was okay. What I'm slightly frustrated by, other than the terrible artwork, is that the story itself um, is it ends in a cliffhanger. It's the first arc of the story, and when this is collected in a trade paperback of 4 issues, it says book one. But the thing is, the series then ended after the fourth issue, so that's not really very helpful. Ends in a complete cliffhanger, basically in the middle of a story arc, which is annoying and frustrating and definitely unsatisfying. Um, yeah, that's all I really want to say about this miniseries, guys. There's a bit of further information you guys should know. There is another Ninjak series that is planned or mooted by Valiant. It's called Ninjak Super Killers. No artwork for that has as yet been announced. But that in theory is coming out in early 2023. I remain skeptical if that's going to be the case. Whilst I would like to see where this story goes and the actual storyline goes, I have no idea if it's actually likely to come out. Clearly, this particular 4 issue series just stopped dead after 4 issues, and you can't convince me that was planned or that was the intention. In terms of Ninjak Super Killers, if it's drawn by the same guy, I am not going to be impressed. Like this artwork is just ridiculous. It looks like a bad webcomic. It honestly looks like a bad webcomic. And it's just composed in an incoherent, choppy way. And the storyline is interesting and has potential, but that is not enough to save it when it's swimming upstream against all these other various problems. So yeah, Ninjak Super Killers, maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't. It hasn't come out yet, so it's not included in this reading review. Um, Before we go any further, we should have a look at the reading map that I'm developing, because obviously I'm doing a reading map specifically for the Valiant universe, and here it is. Now, as you can see here, we've got the various Ninjak series here on the right. So we've got Ninjak Volume 1, Ninjak Volume 2. We've also got Rapture set between the two of those. Rapture, I guess, kind of goes here, chronologically speaking, although I am reserving judgment. I do suspect it's going to end up being much more important to read it as part of the Shadow Man series of comics, only because the only lasting impact of the Rapture miniseries is something that happens to the character of Shadow Man, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So we've got Ninjak Volume 1, Rapture, Ninja Volume 2. Then we've got Ninja K, which I've done a review of. Then we've got Killers, which in retrospect I like less and less the more I think about it. Then we've got Roku, which we talked about last time. And then we have Ninjak with this 4-issue mini we're talking about today. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple to read the Ninjak series. Generally speaking, it doesn't really involve any knowledge of the wider Valiant universe at all, other than a bit of stuff about Punk Mambo and Shadow Man. But even then, you can pretty much roll with it, I think. Yeah, so that's this part of the Valiant universe. Sorry if I sound a bit frustrated, but I'll be honest, that 4-issue mini from today, very unsatisfying. Jeff Parker is an average writer at best. He seemed to have a couple of good ideas here, but strangling them with horrific artwork and a broken publishing schedule is not helpful by any metric. So yeah, that's the end of Ninjak. It feels very much like, looking at this map, it feels very much like Valiant did go off a cliff in 2017, 2018 once Dinesh Shamdasani was bought out of it and once DMG Entertainment took it over. We've seen that across quite a few of the different comics with Harbinger Wars 2, with the last season of Exo Manowar, with Bloodshot Rising Spirit and so on. So it does make me a little bit wary about reading the more recent Valiant hardcovers. That said, I am of course going to do that. On that note, what am I going to read next time? In our next installment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be reading Britannia, I think. Britannia is a 4-issue miniseries. It actually collected as a single deluxe edition, which I have, which collects 3 separate miniseries, all under the Britannia tagline. I think it's out of continuity. I think it's completely random. I think it's not linked into anything else. And so I thought I'd give it a try as a bit of a palate cleanser after today's Ninjak disappointment. So if you're reading along next time, that's what we'll be reading, Britannia. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. As always, please follow me on Twitter at I am Thomas Judge, where I will post a daily review of whatever comics I've been reading. You can get an idea of what I'm up to on the channel. And as always, please support the channel by heading over to Amazon.com and checking out my prose novel about superheroes. It's a completely original piece of work. The first episode in it is called Arrivals, and the series as a whole is called No Gods or Kings. You can find an excerpt of that on my website, nogodsorkings.com. Until next time, everybody, stay classy.